Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? We have the money. We have the money. Hello, everyone. Glad you can join me again. And I'm happy to see you. It's been a little while. I've been a little bit under the weather, and I'm feeling a little bit better now, thanks for asking. But I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about something that, again, is very interesting. And it's about the VAT Tax, UBI, the current meme war, and an idea for how to translate energy from online into real life. And we'll talk about all of that. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about is, have you seen these memes? These memes are fantastic for Andrew Yang. I tweeted out a few of them and they're on my Twitter timeline. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm at Ready Brian Ross, like Ready Player One. But man, some of these are really good. Like, these are peak 2016 Trump memes, and I was well aware of all of those different memes. I was in and around their circles, and I saw, just how good those memes could be. But man, these Yang memes, the Yang Gang 2020, these guys are pretty good. I gotta hand it to them. And it seems like they're winning the meme war, and they're not even, here's the thing, they're not even competing against any other Democrat. They're competing against Trump already. But that's what's so interesting about it. No one on the left is even competing. I haven't seen any memes from Kamala Harris or even Bernie Sanders, and you would expect Bernie to have some. And that's what's really interesting, is that he seems to have already taken a big lead out in the meme department, and he's kind of running away with that department. So we'll see how that continues to evolve, because as I've said in other Periscopes and other videos, the more energy that you have as a candidate, the better off you're going to do, the more fundraising you can do, the more energy, the better off you are. But anyway, someone was asking me about the VAT tax, and is the VAT tax a good way to pay for universal basic income? So for those of you who do not know what a VAT tax is, it's the value added tax, and what it is you can sort of think of it like a sales tax but for businesses. And so just to visualize it very quickly, if there is let's say you're mining gold out of the earth and you get $100 worth of gold, and your one gold is worth $100, and you sell that to a jewelry maker, and you sell it to them for $100. And then the jewelry maker takes that $100 worth of gold, and they sell jewelry that's $200 to a store or something like that. The value added on that gold is $100, and at a value added tax of 10%, that would be $10 that would be assessed to the product of the jewelry that is sold. And then the retailer, might wholesale it to someone else and wholesale it for $400, in which case there would be a value added tax of 10%, which would be $40. It would be $40 minus $10 because they paid out $10 already. And it gets complicated, but essentially the easy way to think about it is a sales tax for businesses. And I didn't do a very good job explaining it because it's a very complicated thing, and I don't want to spend too much time on the mechanics of a value-added tax, because there's people much smarter than me who have explained it in more detail, and you can search the YouTubes for that. But someone had asked me, is this a good way to pay for the universal basic income? And my thought on this is, it's a perfectly fine way, and there's probably a bunch of other ways that you could raise money for universal basic income. But when people say that it is not going to cause inflation, or it's not going to raise prices, inflation and raising prices are two different things. But, when people talk about universal basic income, they say that it's going to make prices rise. And that doesn't necessarily follow. It's not the universal basic income that will make prices rise, but the taxes, especially the VAT tax, will cause prices to rise, because companies are going to take they're going to see that they're not making as much money, and if they want to operate at the same margins, they're going to have to raise the prices. So the price of that tax is going to be passed along to consumers. So the higher that VAT tax is, at least in theory, the higher those prices are going to have to be to compensate. Now, they're not going to raise any substantial amount. They should raise anywhere from 10 to 20%. And you have to ask yourself, Am I willing to pay an extra 10% on products if I'm getting $1,000 a month? And that's the question you have to decide. Now, if it was a VAT tax that was being levied to pay for something else that wasn't universal basic income, it would be a pretty tough sell. It would be pretty tough to say all of your prices are going to rise and we're going to pay down the national debt, which is something that doesn't really affect you or me in any real meaningful, direct way. Maybe conceptually somewhere down the line, the debt might affect us, but the debt, because people have raised this issue, the debt is a non-issue. The government can pay off the debt at any time at once, technically. Say if we had $1 trillion in debt, the government could mint $1 trillion coin and use it to pay off the debt. It's completely possible, probably not a good idea, but there's never any real risk of bankruptcy with the debt. So that's sort of a non-issue if you have smart people in your Treasury Department. So that's the question you have to ask. Are you willing to accept 10 to 20% higher prices if you're getting $1,000 a month? And if it was for anything else, the answer is probably no, right? If you're a higher tax to pay down the debt, that's not really too exciting. Or even for something like free college or for any other thing, something that may or may not affect you, it's a tough sell. But when you think about $1,000 a month for you and everyone you know that's an adult, that's a pretty enticing sell if you're Andrew Yang. It's a pretty good sell. And so I think he's onto something there. At least if I was if I'm thinking about who I'm going to vote for, I would accept 10 to 20% higher prices for $1,000 a month. It seems like a fair trade-off. So I wanted to talk about the VAT tax, and so it seems like a perfectly reasonable plan, at least on the surface. We'll see how when the math geeks really dive into it, and we'll see what comes out. But I don't see any reason why prices would rise. Here's my question for the YouTubes and for the Periscopes. Can you think of any reason why a VAT tax or universal basic income would cause prices to rise more than 30%? We'll put the number even lower. I think even at 30% it still makes sense, but can you think of a reason why it rises more than 30%? Why prices would rise? I can't think of any good reason. $1,000 a month is a lot, and it's especially for people at the lower end of the income bracket because that's a higher percentage of their net annual income. But it's not enough that it causes massive increases in purchasing power that you can raise your $100 product to $200. It doesn't necessarily follow. So I can't think of any reason why prices would rise more than 30%. And the trade-off of $1,000 a month and that social safety net, that monetary safety net, seems to be a trade-off that people are willing to make. But anyway, if you watched last night, Pete Buttigieg, I'm not sure how you say it. On his Twitter, he has the phonetic spelling of it as boot edge edge. Pete boot edge edge. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but I'm not sure how you say it. I'm not sure it's too important. But apparently, Pete boot edge edge came out in support of universal basic income. And if you remember in my last video, I said that you're going to see more and more mainstream politicians start to accept this idea of universal basic income. So we have I think he's the mayor of Indiana. I think, it's Indiana because he's a Hoosier. So he's the mayor of Indiana, and he's not the mayor of Indiana, mayor of somewhere. I'm not sure what he is exactly. But he's something in Indiana. Governor, mayor, something along those lines. And he's come out in support of universal basic income. That's the important part. And he's not going to be the last person either. Not the first. He probably won't be the last. It might be the first. So keep an eye out for that. But the important thing that I wanted to talk about today is how is Andrew Yang going to translate his online energy into real life energy? And that's the important part, because if you remember Donald Trump's campaign in 2016, and even if you remember Obama and Bernie Sanders, their events have a lot of energy, in that it's fun to go to those events. They pack out stadiums and they pack out big venues. And Andrew Yang hasn't been packing out any big venues. He's been doing small town halls and, other types of buildings, maybe 100 people or so. So how can you get from 100 people to 1,000, and then from 1,000 to 10,000? We'll see what his solutions are for that, but the only thing that I can think of right offhand is, if it was possible, if he could leverage some of his celebrity friendships, and not celebrities like Oprah or The Rock. I'm talking about celebrities that are more akin to his base. And his base right now is what's called the intellectual dark web, or the online people who are very interested in ideas and debates, and they're just naturally curious. Because he had mentioned that he was friends with a person named Brett Weinstein. Weinstein. It's Weinstein because Harvey Weinstein. So he mentioned that he was friends with Brett, and then I would assume Eric Weinstein, and they can pack out venues. Dave Rubin, he goes on tour, he can pack out venues. I wonder why Andrew Yang hasn't been on Dave Rubin yet. I wonder if it's possible that he would get maybe a few of these guys, maybe Sam Harris, who's been on Sam Harris' podcast. Is it possible Andrew Yang could get Sam Harris and Dave Rubin and Brett and Eric Weinstein? Is it possible he could get them to do an event with him? Because that would probably pack out a stadium, right? It's something to look at. Now, I know politicians do this. They do have other people. They do have, warm-up acts. And normally, celebrity endorsements don't really go too far as influencing the electorate. But I think it's because a lot of times celebrity endorsements come from celebrities that no one really cares what their personal opinion is. At least they're not looking to them for, like you don't watch The Rock because you like his opinions on intellectual matters or his opinions on politics. You like The Rock because he's in movies and he's a big famous wrestler and you can smell what The Rock is cooking. But what about the celebrities like Dave Rubin or Eric and Brett Weinstein or Sam Harris? People who, they're respected for their opinions, maybe even Jordan Peterson, even though he's not American. These types of figures might be critical and crucial for the Yang campaign, at least in the beginning, to show that he can pack out a venue. Because once you pack out the first venue, it's easier to pack out the next venue, because this idea of social proof and this concept of social proof, if he's able to show that he packs out venues, it's going to be a tell to everyone else in America that his events can be fun. And that's going to be the big challenge, is how can he make a packed out venue fun? Can he perform? Because when you're doing a campaign speech in front of a big crowd of people, you're more of a performer than a politician. That's how Trump approached it. And you saw how the reaction that Trump gets at his rallies, full of energy. Yang's going to need to capture at least some of that magic, that online magic, and bring it into real life. And the only way that I can think to do that is if he starts endorsing starts utilizing and leveraging some of the, really smart people that probably like his ideas and like his politics. But anyway, I want to hear what you guys think about all that. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter one, even though we're still at around 14, 15 minutes. But I appreciate the heck out of all you guys, and to all my YouTube's peoples, thank you very much. I love all the love, and I'm sending it right back to you. And to the Twitter and Periscope people, you guys are just great as well. But I will see you guys all later. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Until next time.